Good morning, students. It's always a great joy to be able to come to your homes through this way of online teaching. I am Daud Ali from Shiv Jyoti Educational Group, your teacher for today's lesson. I hope you are having a good time, and if you are not, then you will have now, because we are going to study together a new chapter of English literature. I promise you it's going to be a very interesting one. Ready? Set? Let's begin. Chapter 6, Feathered Friend. So before we start the chapter, we would first like to know about the writer, because that is what we always do, and that is a very important thing to do. Sir Arthur Charles Clarke was a British science fiction writer, inventor, undersea explorer, and television series host. He is famous for being co-writer of the 1968 film 2001 A Space Odyssey. He was both an avid popularizer of space travel and futurist of uncanny ability. On these subjects, he wrote over a dozen books and many essays. So this is the reason why we call him Sir Arthur Charles Clarke, because as we just see, he has done so many things and he has written so many books, and not only he's a science fiction writer, but he's also an inventor. We are now going to read a story written by him, and before we do that, we are going to know the characters of the story, the main characters of the story, and we will now talk about them. There are four major characters in this story. Number one, Sven Olsen, at first thought as a 6'6" Nordic construction worker in space, but really very little fellow. So at first you might think of him as a very tall, huge, giant guy, 6.6 inches tall, but he's a very little fellow but strong, and he's also a construction worker in space. Another important character in the story, Claribel, small yellow canary. Canary is a bird, so small yellow bird, which we call canary, is a small yellow canary, and the name of the bird is Claribel. She is also a very important character in this story that we are about to begin. Narrator, a worker on the space station. Narrator, the person who is going to narrate this story, who is going to tell this story to us, the storyteller. Jock Duncan, he is the cook, doctor and dietitian on the space station. So he is quite talented and he is very skillful. Not only he is a cook, but also he is a doctor and a dietitian. So these four are going to be the major four characters in the story. Sven Olsen, here the word Nordic. This word Nordic is used for the people living in Finland and Iceland. So you might think of him as a giant sized guy, but he is a little fellow but strong and a construction worker. Claribel, small bird, the narrator, and Jock Duncan. We will now begin with the story. The narrator says that he is unaware of a regulation that prevents pets from being on a space station, and that Sven would ignore it anyway. So the narrator says that he does not know about any rule or regulation that prohibits keeping a pet on space station, and he's thinking and he's saying that Sven guy, he is anyway not going to follow any rule, because he's not a very big rule follower kind of person. If there were any rules and regulation about that prohibit that prohibit keeping any pet on space station, this man Sven will not anyway follow such rule or regulation. That's what the narrator is thinking and saying, and that's how he starts the story. Sven was the best space construction worker on the space station at the time, and was a very little fellow, which got him a bonus for being under 150 pounds. So Sven, unlike the perception of people that Nordic people are very tall and huge and giant size, this is a very little fellow, and his weight is somewhere under 150 pounds. And he is the best construction worker on the space station. Unlike his earthbound counterpart, Sven could step back and look at his work without fear of falling off the building. So when we are on earth, you might have seen when construction workers are working on earth, it's always a great risk, it's always a great danger for them that they might fall down from the building. They might fall down from the building, and when they look down, because they often they are working to build very huge and tall buildings, and they are at a great height, and when they look down from there, it looks very scary. But here this is not the case. On space station, since gravitational force does not work, so Swain, he is not afraid of the heights there, and he is not afraid there is no fear in him of falling off the building, quite obviously. So Swain was smart to have Claribel as a pet because it took close to nothing to support her. The author found Claribel after hitting his head on an angle beam. He saw Claribel for the first time, although he had been hearing her. Swain, it is so smart of Swain, this person Swain, to have Claribel, the bird Claribel, the canary bird, as a pet, because that bird, canary, it does not need, for its sustenance, you do not need to feed her too much. The maintenance of the pet is not very high. So the author, the narrator, he has been hearing the voice, the songs, the chirping of the birds, but he has never been able to see her until he one day, what happens? He hits his head on an angle beam, and that is the first time when the author, the narrator, is able to see Claribel, the bird, the canary. And this is the picture of canary. Claribel, the canary, found out how to make her way in zero gravity and was efficient at it. So he has soon adopted to the environment. He has learned to live in the environment at the space station they are at. Swain said he had brought her from Earth as a science experiment. They didn't have any problem hiding her from VIPs, as they always had explanation for the noises she made when she was upset. So now sometimes when VIPs would visit them and there would be guests, and they might hear the sound, they might hear the chirping of the bird canary, but they were always good in making excuses and in finding a way to hide their pet from the VIP guests. Swain always, and what was the major excuse? The excuse from the side of Swain was this, that he has brought the bird just for science experiment. So by this excuse, he will always somehow get away with it. The narrator woke up one day with a headache and was slow to do morning activities. Swain was missing from the breakfast because he was looking for Claribel. So till now everything has been going well, but one day narrator has woken up and he is not feeling well. He is feeling sick. He is not feeling like the way he feels every day. It's different this morning, and why it's different, we do not know yet why it's different. And he has been slow to do morning activities, and he also sees, every day they do the breakfast together, but this morning on the breakfast table he has not found Swain. Swain is not there. Swain is absent. And then he has found out that Swain has gone. Swain is looking for Claribel because Claribel is missing. So this is a sad part here, that our dear Claribel the canary is missing. Let's see, will we be able to find the bird? Claribel was found in a stunned state, and Jock Duncan could not hear a heartbeat. Someone said to give her some oxygen from an oxygen face mask, which served as an oxygen tent for Claribel. Claribel is found and she is unconscious. She is unconscious, and Jock Duncan, when we were discussing about the characters, we discussed about him, we talked about him. He is the cook, the doctor, the dietitian. He is very talented. He has so many skills. So Jock Duncan could not hear a heartbeat. They were very afraid. They are all afraid, and they are thinking, is the canary dead? And what else they are doing? They oxygen, with the help of oxygen mask, they are face masks which served as an oxygen tent for Claribel. So they are, you know, somehow trying to bring Claribel back to consciousness with the help of oxygen face mask. The oxygen revived Claribel, and she called everyone to breakfast but passed out again. So oxygen revived Claribel. Claribel has, is conscious again now, and with her beautiful voice, with her beautiful singing, she has called everybody to breakfast, but she passed out again. She is now unconscious again. The narrator notices that Claribel was passing out because of the air being bad. An air purifier had frozen, and the single $500,000 alarm failed to go off. So there has been a mystery behind it, which the narrator has got to know just now. Narrator realizes that air being bad, this is the reason for passing out of the Claribel. And air purifier, you know, on space stations, there are air purifiers which keep purifying the air, and when they fail to work, the air become bad and it's difficult for people in there to breathe. So it became difficult for Claribel to breathe. It was very hard for her to breathe, and since she was unable to breathe, she passed out and she got unconscious. So $5,000 alarm failed to go off. That alarm did not work, and air started being bad, which was harmful for all of them, and it was harmful obviously for Claribel also. That's why she is unconscious. But the narrator has now realized it. He has now noticed the problem. Let's see what will they do. Claribel had saved everyone's life. So our dear canary has saved everybody's life because the alarm did not work. But it was the Claribel who did let everyone know that alarm is not working, and the air, the oxygen has gone bad on the space station. The narrator says, if one is ever on a space station, to not be surprised or alarmed if there was bird song recognized, for the bird is only there as a cheap backup alarm system. In the end, the narrator says, if any one of you ever goes to visit a space station, do not be surprised if you hear the bird song there, if you hear any familiar voice of bird, because that is only there as a cheap alarm system. So what did we learn from today's story? We learned that sometimes the least expensive can be the most valuable. This is it for today. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you very soon again.